When a toxic person gives a gift, that gift typically comes with strings attached. In some cases, the toxic person may attempt to maintain control over how the gift is used, causing the recipient to feel manipulated and harming whatever relationship may exist between the two. In other cases, the toxic person makes the recipient feel like they owe something to the toxic person in exchange for the gift. By definition, a gift is something voluntarily transferred by one person to another without compensation, so that kind of gift isn't really a gift. When my parents were paying me just enough to keep me hanging on, they would often call it a gift, but they demanded things in return and used it as a pretext to control my spending. They would demand receipts for almost everything I purchased, and pay stubs from wherever I happened to be working at the time. Receipts with food items on them were often subjected to additional scrutiny, causing me to experience additional problems with nutrition and weight. Worse still, despite claiming to believe that I suffered from alcoholism, they would gift me large boxes of malt beverages. They also tried to send me gift cards instead of cash-based support. The gift cards only worked at a store which is known for having lower alcohol prices, but higher food prices than other stores in the area. Between that and the ongoing emotional abuse, it seems like they wanted me to drink myself to death, or at least enough to give them an excuse to lock me up in an alcohol treatment center. Long story short, just because someone calls it a gift doesn't mean it's actually a gift. It could be a Trojan horse, a pretext to deprive you of liberty disguised as generosity. Since my parents and I are no longer on speaking terms, I ended up buying my own birthday gifts this year. Though they weren't as lavish as gifts my parents could afford, I actually felt better about these gifts because I didn't feel like I had to explain why I wanted each thing like I did on this Christmas list. Better still, I know I'll never be demonized or guilt-tripped because I used them in a way that no one involved ever anticipated. Last year, I got to spend Christmas with a family from the church whose live stream I run on Sundays. Earlier this year, I got to spend Easter with another family from that same church. I won't mention their name for privacy reasons, but I did have a wonderful time. It was a great day for me, and I noticed a couple of things that kind of surprised me and might be of interest to you as well. The first thing is, they didn't use their TV to watch TV. When they put on a baseball game, they were watching it on a tablet, with a phone propped up beside of it showing the scoreboard. They did have a TV, but it was for video games, or maybe a DVD if they were watching one together as a family. It's not a bad difference, it's just a difference. Now the second thing I noticed, and this was a difference I really liked, is that the adults in the family asked the kids, "Is it okay if I hug you?" before actually hugging them. If the kid said no, not right now, or didn't say yes, the adult would just say okay, and that would be that. It's worth noting that the children in this consent-practicing family were much better behaved than I was when I was their ages. My parents were more the give me a hug or go give grandma a hug type parents. They'd say it in a way that made me feel like I didn't have a choice. When I got old enough, and when I've been living away from them long enough, to realize that I did have a choice, I chose not to hug them because I hated feeling like hugging was something I had to do rather than something I wanted to do. Hugs should never make you feel trapped. They should always make you feel loved. Not only did I enjoy spending time with my friends that day, and playing a little too much Wii with the kids, not gonna lie, but it also gave me hope, seeing how much better these kids were treated. It helped remind me that just because I had to escape from my family doesn't mean family is something that always needs escaping from. Narcissists are highly skilled at deflecting. When they do something wrong, they will shift the blame onto other people or things just to avoid accountability. This is hard for me to talk about because I regret it very much, but as a young child, I ended up mistreating other children, and I didn't know why. My parents blamed Nickelodeon, comic books, even my grandparents, anything but themselves for the bad behaviors I'd learned. But they have admitted that after just 2 years in boarding school, my behavior improved drastically. At that boarding school, I had just as much screen time, if not more, than I had when I was living with them. My behavior improved there because I was living away from my parents' bad example, away from all the dishonesty, the emotional instability, and the outright abuse. When a parent misbehaves in front of their child, the child believes that behavior is acceptable. My parents raised me wrong, but I've worked very hard to overcome their bad parenting, and the role models I was exposed to outside of their home really helped.